welcome back to another video from Sunshine Speedway. This video is kind of geared towards finding a way to revive my love for the Carrera cars. Now, if you're like me and you got into stock car racing beginning with the digital world, you probably have a collection of Carrera cars that you might have forgotten about once you got into the analog scene. After I created my axle box, I purchased more analog cars than I have digital cars. I can't remember the last time I bought a digital car, to be honest with you. Now, the reason for that is I stopped enjoying the digital driving. I didn't like the way the cars drive. They felt like dump trucks with magnets in them. And if you take the magnets out, they drive like dump trucks on ice. Now, I've spent the past week and a half trying to find a way to enjoy these cars again, and I think I've found a solution. I'm sure this is something that a lot of you have done before. This is just something that's new to me. What I've started to do is I take the magnets out and I put on a pair of Paul gauge tires and I run them on track. With a little bit of cleaning, getting all the dirt and dust off the axles. These cars are fun to drive again because you actually have to drive them. This video has a comparison of a stock Carrera car with the stock tires and the magnets, followed by a car that's without the magnets with the stock tires, just to show how bad they transition from mag to magless. And then the last two cars that are in the video are Paul gauge tires, no mags, Paul gauge tires that are tuned with no mags, to see if there's a difference between the two cars with the tire truing involved in the scene. I don't want to spend too much time talking. Let's get some cars on track. We'll go through all the details of each car before the laps are done. Okay, so this is just going to be a lap driven challenge here. Each car is going to get 10 laps to run the best possible time that they can with the current setup. Let's just review the cars here quickly before we get started. So for starters, we have a standard Carrera car with both magnets installed and the stock tires, followed by a car with stock tires, no magnets. Third car is no mags, Paul gauge tires that are untrued. And the fourth car is trued tires and no magnets. As you can see, we have the cars lined up with their associated controller numbers 1 through 4. This is going to be the running order that we test the cars in. Just do a quick walkthrough. We've got our 18-foot long straight where the pit lane and the start-stop gate is. Start-stop leads into an R2 turn. This is turn 1. Turns 2, 3, and 4 create a bit of a difficulty with keeping the car rear end intact as you come up the hill where the flags are. Turns 5, 6, and 7 need to be managed in terms of speed. If you carry too much speed into the hairpin, you will careen into the wall. And if you get a little too feisty on the throttle underneath the bridge, you will definitely de-slot before you hit turn 8. So we'll do a final recap of the cars themselves. Car number 1, our Lamborghini Huracan. The advantages of this setup is that it's great for novice, and it definitely limits the de-slotting of having the magnets in. The drawbacks of this current setup is the car basically defies all physics, with the magnets contributing to the downforce. You definitely get some higher speed crashes, and it's going to limit your skill development when you're driving cars with magnets. My predictions with this car is it's going to have the overall fastest lap. It is likely to de-slot or break free due to the tires not being trued or conditioned, and it's definitely going to be the least fun to drive. I'm not going to do too much talking when the cars are going around track, but I will highlight a few key details as the laps are completed. So right now it's running on the inside lane. After the first lap's complete, I'm going to switch to the outside lane, which is generally the faster lane. Now, it's been a while since I've driven any car on this track with a magnet, so the feel of this car is a little bit foreign to me at the moment. I think this really has to do with why I'm driving it so poorly. As you can see here, I'm going into the race controls and I'm actually downplaying the brake force because the car feels like it's coming to a complete stop sooner than I want it to. After a quick marshal, we'll get back on the laps. I'm just toying around with the race settings here because just something doesn't feel right with this car. As you can see, the car is capable of carrying quite a bit of speed through turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. Kind of lost control there a bit on turn 6. Right now we have a best lap of a 7.888. Just checking the car, something just doesn't feel right, and honestly I think it's just the magnet that's throwing me off. As you can see, we're coming up the hill here at the Rolex corner, and I just keep kicking out the rear end on this corner, and with these Carrera cars, the guide seems to snap out of place. Let's try and get another clean lap here. And again, we're breaking the rear end free on the Rolex corner. So let's try and get lap 7 in cleanly. And look at that, we're breaking the rear end free again. So lap 7 is ruined, let's try and make lap 8 a good one. Hey, look at that, we made it through. And we managed to best our time by 3 1,000ths of a second. Okay, I think that session's a wash. So a 7.885 is the best we're going to do with this car at this time. Let's get into car 2 here. So car 2, we have a McLaren 720S. The benefits of this car overall is it's going to drive within the laws of physics. And the best part of this car, honestly, is that I got 2 fridge magnets out of it. Now the cons of this car, because these are the stock Carrera tires and they are incredibly hard to dial in, we're going to find ourselves with less traction, and this car is probably going to have the slowest lap time out of all 4 cars. So my predictions for this car is we're going to have reduced corner grip, reduced straight line top speed, and it's going to be a slow, painful drive. So let's get it over with. Alright, let's get some laps done with car number 2. Now already I can tell on the inside lane that this car is going to be troublesome to drive. Now because this is so slow, I'm going to speed up the laps a little bit just so you don't have to sit through this painfully slow session. So let's fast forward. So 4 laps in, we have a best time of an 11.427. The car is not impossible to drive, but it's just painfully slow. As you pull it around the last turn and you jump on the throttle for the straightaway, it just feels like the rear end is spinning out from under the car, which definitely cuts into the overall straight line speed as you enter the first turn. Pretty well throughout the whole track. I'm not even getting full throttle out of this thing. I'm just feathering it from mid throttle or less to keep the thing on track. I think we're just going to call this session as it is. Obviously this car is significantly slower at this 11.427. Let's move on to car 3. This is going to be a little bit more exciting, I promise. So car 3, we have a nice Mercedes AMG. Now the pros of this car is it's basically going to have an overall better feel on track. With the Paul gauge tires, we're definitely going to feel a bit of an increased corner grip over that no mag setup. Now the cons of this car, with the untrued tires, it's likely that the tires are not perfectly round, so it's possible that these tires may be oblong shaped, which may increase the risk of deslotting. The predictions I have with this car is that it's not going to be as fast as car 1, but it's going to be very close, and it's obviously going to be way more fun to drive. Let's get car number 3 on track and get it into the outside lane and start doing some push laps. So I can assure you the speed of the video of this car has not been fast forwarded. This car is as fast as it looks with no magnets. This car is strictly on Paul gauge tires that have been not trued. This thing is a rocket. Look at the grip it's got coming up the Rolex corner. Already we're at an 8.677. And we had a quick little D-slot there around the last turn. Let's try and do another good push lap here. This car is significantly more fun to drive. It just has so much more confidence in the corners. You can basically just send it down the main straight, and if you get off the throttle in time, you'll still have enough corner speed to get good time around turn 1 without losing the rear end. Here's a little slow-mo of turn 1. You can see the car definitely kicks out on that double apex turn. As it's coming up the hill, it definitely struggles for grip, but it's doing the job. If you compare the sector 1 times between car 1 and car 3, we're only 0.2 of a second down, but the big difference between the two cars is sector 2, and we're looking at close to 0.5 of a second difference. So we're on our last lap here, and we haven't really bested our 8.362, so let's just bring this car in, and let's get started with car number 4. So lastly, we have our Ford GT. Now the pros of this car, it should arguably be the most consistent set. Any minor maintenance changes to this car should result in huge gains. To me, the only con of this car is giving it to a new driver will probably result in lots of slots. So my predictions for this car, it's going to have the most consistent handling and lap times, and I hope that it's the most fun to drive out of all 4. So last car, let's get her going. We'll get it into the outside lane right away. Really, I should have done that from the get-go, but here we are. So right on the very first push lap, de-slotted on turn 1. We're going to have to do another warm-up lap and try this again. And yet, another D-slot in turn 1. Alright, that's the third D-slot in a row in turn 1. I think there's something that needs to be adjusted. Ah, look at that. You can see car 4 had the least amount of brake force, so we need to increase that, because that's obviously what's keeping me from slowing down into turn 1. Alright, let's get another push lap in here and see if we can make something happen. Right, so we have a 9.323 as our first lap. Let's see if we can best that. We were able to get a 9.260. Oh, we had another D slot, but we also did get a 9.137. As you can see in turns 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that car is working its butt off to keep that rear end in check. But it's starting to feel a little more dialed in, so let's keep going here. Hey, look at that, we were able to do a 9.095. Well, I didn't think that we would get third place with this car. I thought for sure this would be a solid second, but overall this car was far more fun to drive than car number 3. Alright, so looking at the finishing order, obviously we had car number 1 with the magnets in first place, followed by car number 3 with the untrued Paul gauge tires, followed by car number 4 with the trued Paul gauge tires and no magnets, and then obviously in dead last we had the stock Carrera car, stock Carrera tires with no magnets, aka the dump truck. The big surprise here was car 3 and 4. I thought for sure that 4 would have been faster than car 3. Truthfully, I think that might have been just the way that the car drives. Some cars just naturally feel faster than others. Looking at the overall times, car 1 we had a best lap of 7.885, followed by a 8.362, which is just a little under a half a second slower. And then in third place we have our 9.095, which is a full 1.2 seconds slower. Now interestingly, for sector 1, the fast car had a 4.017, and our second fastest car was only 1/10 of a second slower. And then looking at sector 2, we have a whopping 3.828, followed by a second place who was 4/10 slower, 4.221. So the big surprise here is the untrued Paul gauge tires with no mags, just plain Jane tires slapped on that aren't true. It was only a half second slower than the full mag car. So here's the winner's circle. We got our Lamborghini Huracan up front, followed by the Mercedes AMG, trailing by the Ford GT, and way back there in last place, the McLaren 720S. So for the final verdict, the Lamborghini Huracan is a fantastic car. I love the Saturn V looking livery. Those magnets have to go though, and Paul gauges are a must, 100%. For the Mercedes, this car was much faster than expected. I can definitely see this car being at the top of the leaderboard in the future. For the Ford GT, this car was a very close no mag second place in this event. I think with a bit of additional tuning, this car will see faster lap times thrown down. And lastly, the McLaren 720S. We gotta ditch those stock tires and we're gonna tune this thing to win because this thing looks fast. With the creation of this video and all the tuning and tweaking that I've done to get these cars as you see them, I've had quite a bit of fun with these Carrera cars once again, which was really the point of this whole exercise. The whole reason why I got into slot car racing in the first place was because of this digital system, and I was a little upset as I grew more interested in the hobby that the digital system just kind of fell by the wayside. As you can see here, I have quite a few digital cars in my catalog that I need to update. And once I get them all tuned up and ready to go, I'm definitely going to put them head to head with each other in a Top Gear-like scenario that I'm going to call Top Slot Canada in a future video. Until then, keep on racing and we'll catch you later.